Ladies and gentlemen, James Lane here, and on this episode of the American Reveille podcast, we're going straight from GameStonks right over to Apple versus Suckerberg to Cuomo killed 50% more elderly folks, and then finally 2020 is going to be the year we find Jimmy Hoffa. Folks, what the hell is going on? 2020 and 2021, ladies and gentlemen. We might as well get ready. Grab the popcorn, put on the 3D glasses. Things are getting wild. Next. Ladies and gentlemen, James Lane here. How you guys doing today? This is the American Reveille podcast, and I know that you've all heard all about the GameStonk experience going on. The stock prices being driven up. GameStop, AMC, other companies like that, sticking it to the hedge funds that, of course, play this game and steal our money anyway. A lot of people became millionaires. A lot of people became billionaires. A pretty interesting thing that happened, but interesting in a way I don't think many people really are putting together. And I haven't heard many people talking about this because it seems, if even for an instant, the left and the right, both with different beliefs, different points of view, different ideologies, could agree on one thing. They both take pleasure in sticking it to the man. And who is the man in this instance? The man, ladies and gentlemen, the man is Wall Street. The man is hedge funds, rich billionaires, folks that toy with our lives while we toil for their lives, ladies and gentlemen. Pretty interesting stuff. A bunch of folks got together on Reddit and then drove the price up, costing these billionaires tons of money, tons and tons of money. And then beyond that, you got apps like Robinhood and these hedge funds and others colluding, doing the illegal thing and literally shutting down the free market on people. People are most likely going to go to jail. Dave Portnoy and others call for it. Obviously, the market's being manipulated. But folks, I think that the most important thing we can do, besides speculating on it, is just read this article from the Wall Street Journal, get through it, talk about it. I love this guy's name. He's known as Deep Fucking Value. All right. Hey, there's going to be cursing in this episode. The guy's name is Deep Fucking Value. So if you don't like cursing or you got kids, this isn't the episode for them. I'm not going to curse too much, but I'm not going to censor this guy's name. I think he deserves some credit. I'm really happy to see the little guy basically get one over on the dude. It's almost like a real Robin Hood experience. You know what I mean? Keith Gill, all right? This is the Wall Street Journal. I pay for these subscriptions so I can actually read these articles to you. The Wall Street Journal, Keith Gill drove the GameStop Reddit mania, and he talked to the Journal trader known as Deep Fucking Value on the Wall Street Bets Forum, helped turn the investing world upside down. And he's quoted as saying, "I didn't expect this." And that's kind of why we shouldn't expect to see much legal action taken against these people, because they're civilians talking in an open forum, giving each other kind of quasi-advice about what to invest in. There's nothing illegal about that. It's just the rich people being pansies, pissing and moaning because they didn't get their way for once. One time out of a million times that they get to win. The little guy wins and they can't hack it. Maybe, just maybe, something like this is what this country needs. Maybe it's like a shock from a defibrillator almost, you know? Clear, just fucking, maybe it's neat. I'm saying, I'm not saying violence or anything like that, but maybe this is how we do it. Maybe we have to keep finding these very, very intelligent ways to break in the back door. What's that Beastie Boys song, ladies and gentlemen? It's sabotage! Maybe we need to be on a digital, legal sabotage mission, ladies and gentlemen. Anyway, pretty interesting stuff. By the way, I'm still real nasally. I'm sure you've noticed by now I've got this sinus infection going, so I'm sorry. You'll just have to deal with it. But we're going to go through this article. We're going to go through a couple other articles. I want to try this method. I think we might be able to do a couple different things on certain episodes and then chop them up to try to get our numbers up. The censorship is doing a real number to us, but once we get the street teams launched, I think that's going to help us on the back end. Now, we've got a timeline. We're thinking about 4 to 5 weeks until the street teams are running, but we've got folks checking in Las Vegas, folks checking in Nashville, Tennessee, folks checking in Ventura, in California. I mean, there are people ready across this country to spread the word of the American Reveille, ladies and gentlemen, and it's very exciting. So with that being said, I know we've had a lot of false starts here, but we're finally going to start reading. All right, guys, this is the Wall Street Journal. This is by Julia Ambra Verlaine and Gunjan Banerjee. I think I said that right. Banerjee. Gunjan Banerjee. And this is for the Wall Street Journal. Boston. The investor who helped direct the world's attention to GameStop, leading a horde of online followers in a bizarre market rally that made and lost fortunes from one day to the next, says he's just a normal guy. I didn't expect this, said Keith Gill, 34 years old, known as Deep Fucking Value by fans on Reddit's Wall Street Bets Forum, and Dada by his 2-year-old daughter, and that's wonderful. I have an almost 2-year-old daughter who calls me da 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 da. That's at least how she says it at this point. He said he didn't set out to draw the attention of Congress, the Federal Reserve, or hedge funds, the media, trading platforms, and hundreds of thousands of investors. Quote, "This story is so much bigger than me," Mr. Gill told the Wall Street Journal in his first interview since unboxing this week of a volatile new stock market game. "I support these retail investors, their ability to make a statement." To many of them, Mr. Gill, who until recently worked in marketing for Massachusetts Mutual Life Insurance Company, is the force behind the quadruple-digit gains in shares of the video game retailer GameStop, ladies and gentlemen, where I used to go buy Age of Empires 2 and Warcraft 3 so that I could play turn-based role-playing games once upon a time when I was a kid. Anyway, GameStop up more than 1,600%, folks, this year through Friday. On Wednesday, the stock jumped 135% to $347.51, a record before plunging to $194 a share. Then Thursday, and then after that, sharply it rebounded towards the end of the week. Now, at the start of the year, GameStop shares, all right, folks, they were $18. $18, folks. Now they're in the hundreds of dollars, worth more than Boeing stock, ladies and gentlemen. Many online investors say his advocacy helped turn them into a force powerful enough to cause big losses for established hedge funds and, for the moment, turn the investing world upside down. It's a warning shot, ladies and gentlemen, letting the man know that the little guy knows what's behind the curtain, and it stinks. Mr. Gill posted a screenshot of his brokerage account Wednesday showing a roughly 20 million daily gain on GameStop shares and options. Quote, "Your steady hand convinced many of us not only to buy, but to hold. Your example has literally changed the lives of thousands of ordinary normal people. Seriously, thank you. You deserve every penny you get," replied one Reddit user. Reality? This is actually really intelligent. Their name is reality_check. CZECH. Reality check. Here's a picture of this guy. Folks, it looks like Neo from The Matrix with long hair and a red bandana. All right. He's like Ryu from Street Fighter. That's what he looks like a less jacked Ryu from Street Fighter, standing in front of a stock chart here with fluctuating line graph going up and down, up and down. The next day, Mr. Gill posted another screenshot showing about a $15 million loss. After Thursday's market close, his E-Trade brokerage account, viewed by the Journal, held around $33 million, baby. Woo! Including GameStonks, options, and millions of dollars in cash. This guy's like a cowboy. He's like a modern-day cowboy. Doesn't it feel like that? Like Jesse James type stuff? Woo! Mr. Gill's online persona. All right, folks. Oof. Wait, let's back up for a second. I almost skipped ahead. He always liked money, said Elaine Gill, his mother, and as a child, she said he would get money from those scratch tickets that people didn't know they'd won, people who'd throw them on the ground. A lot of times there was still money on them. Mr. Gill's online persona. Now we're back to this part. Are you ready, folks? He goes by the name Roaring Kitty on YouTube and has drawn tens of thousands of fans and copycats who share screenshots of their own brokerage accounts. As the GameStop frenzy peaked this week, hundreds of thousands of new investors downloaded applications like Robinhood to join the action, and this is according to Aptopia Incorporated. Mr. Gill said he wasn't a rabble-rouser out to take on the establishment, just someone who believes investors can find value in unloved stocks. He never expected to have a legion of fans debating his online identity or millions of dollars in his trading account. In fact, he said that he was just a dad with an online hobby and a plastic kiddie slide on the front lawn of a Boston suburb. Just like you and me, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Gill began investing in GameStop around June 2019. Think about that. That's, what, a little over a year ago? Little year and a half to change your life, ladies and gentlemen. 2019, he said, when it was hovering around $5 a share. Now, earlier that year, the game retailer was hunting for its fifth chief executive in a little over 12 months. This is the type of stuff that goes into speculating, taking a look at stocks, seeing what's failing, what's not failing, what might go up and go down. You have to look into the companies, and he noticed this. Over 5 chief executive officers in 12 months. That's a big deal. What's that say about a company, ladies and gentlemen? It says they're struggling, but he said that he saw potential for the struggling retailer to reinvigorate itself by attracting new customers with the latest and greatest in video game console. So he said people were doing a quick take, saying GameStop was the next blockbuster. He said a chain caught in a retail decline. It appeared many folks weren't digging in deeper. It was a gross misclassification of an opportunity. So Mr. Gill, tall with shoulder-length hair, opened a YouTube channel last summer, and he worked in the basement of the home he rents in Wilmington, Massachusetts, to avoid disturbing his daughter after bedtime. I love this story. On his channel, he touted GameStop and Belgian beers. His favorite is Delirium Tremens. And on a recent YouTube live stream, he wore a red headband and aviator sunglasses, like I said, Ryu from Street Fighter, while fielding the questions on Stonks. Now, we could also say, what's that one, Bloodsport? Jean-Claude Van Damme. What did he play? John Dukes? John Dukes from Bloodsport, or Dukes or Ducks? I don't remember. They had to go to another country and fight in the Kumatai. Anyway, just look it up on Google. Everything I'm saying makes sense. He fights the bad guy, which is the super steroided out, jacked Asian dude. He fights this guy at the end of the movie, and he's wearing a red headband. That's why I'm thinking of this. Don't mind me. I watched too many movies in my life. Folks, he wore this red headband, Ryu from Street Fighter, with his aviator glasses, fielding questions on the Stonks, pouring himself Prosecco then switching to beers as he celebrated the big gains and gave shout-outs to his legions of viewers and traders in a 7-hour-plus extravaganza. This stream tallied more than 200,000 views. Now, Mr. Gill's obscene username on Reddit Wall Street Bets forum is supposed to reflect a belief in value investing, buying shares of companies that are inexpensive relative to the underlying business. Among his many Reddit fans, Mr. Gill will go down as the greatest legend in history of Wall Street Bets, said John Hagdorn, a 34-year-old training supervisor based in Ronkonkoma, New York. He's the original OG. The stock's wild ride, seemingly divorced from standard measures of corporate value, has spurred complaints that investors banding together to provoke this kind of frenzy amounts to market manipulation. You know, that thing that the rich folks do all the time. The Securities and Exchange Commission said Friday it would act to protect retail investors when the facts demonstrate abusive or manipulative trading activity. Mr. Gill said he hasn't heard from the SEC whatsoever. So, looks like he's replacing Snoop Dogg as the original OG. Sorry, I had to. It's cheesy, I know. It's not even funny. Fast Times. I wonder, are they saying Fast Times like Fast Times at Ridgemont High just because he has long hair? Anyway, the first thing that I had asked him when this craziness started was, is this illegal or is any of this dishonest? And he said, no, Mom, it's not. This is Miss Gill, his mom. She lives in Brockton, Massachusetts. And that's where her and Mr. Steve Gill raised this guy, Mr. Gill, the gentleman who obviously led everybody on to buying this GameStop experience, basically. I think this was an experience. That's why I keep calling it an experience, just because this isn't supposed to happen. Does this make sense to you, ladies and gentlemen? I know we keep reading this article, but I want to stop for a second to ask if this makes sense to you. You have to understand something. The elites in this country have done a fantastic job over the years keeping us little guys, all right, us plebs, us worker bees out of their party. And we found a way to crash their party because of the internet. That is what happened. That's why this is a big deal. So you have to understand that as we read forward, that this is literally all of us together, the little guy working en masse to stick it to the man. That is what's happening. The rich, for once, lost some power, capitalism prevailed, and the markets balanced themselves out. Not balance themselves out yet. There's gonna be a crash, but the wealth redistributed itself. It didn't need socialism to do that. Folks, in high school, Mr. Gill was a distance runner. He earned national honors on the team nearby Stonehill College, where he graduated in 2009 with an accounting major. He ran a 4-minute mile until sidelined by an Achilles injury. If I tried to run a 4-minute mile, I would die. I just want you to know that I would die. If I tried to run a 14-minute mile at this point, I still may die. I just want you to know, if you ever see me dying on the side of a road or dead, it isn't because somebody came after me and killed me. It's because I probably tried to run a mile. Mr. Gill moved to New Hampshire for a few years. He found a mentor, an investor and software developer that his aunt introduced him to. He holds a designation as a chartered financial analyst, and he said he was drawn by the complexity and challenge of stock picking, which became an outlet for the energy he once put into running. He started working at MassMutual in 2019. On the left, there's a little steno notepad. Maybe it's steno, whatever it is. It's a notepad where he's writing his little stonk notes. And of course, he's got the picture of the magic 8-ball on the right. And I guess him and his viewers on his show ask questions to the 8-ball. In the summer of 2019, he started building his position in GameStop and would post screenshots of his E-Trade account options positions from the Wall Street Bets forum. Holy shit, bro. What made you drop $53,000 on GameStop? One trader posted about one of Mr. Gill's screenshots in September 2019. Now, in the months that followed, remember, folks, think about this. He's been doing this, talking to people, working with GameStop stock and people for months and months and months and months, over a year, right? So this isn't like he said something, coordinated something with a bunch of people and made it happen in a day. He's been praising and preaching and pushing GameStop for well over a year. In the months that followed, he posted regularly, putting up a GME YOLO update, a reference to GameStop's ticker and the mantra, "You only live once." He showed off gains in the 5 and 6 digits and times. And also he displayed the times when his investments plunged. Now, Mr. Gill stuck with GameStop and his wagers became day trader lore. To fans, he tapped into the desire by millions of amateur investors around the U.S. to try their hand at stock trading. Trading fees have fallen to zero, and apps now allow investors to buy and sell on their phones. The easy market access is augmented by an online community swelled with eager helpers. All right. And that's true. There are many people trying their hand in investing, and there are many experienced investors giving advice. I see it all over the internet. I actually, to tell you the truth, I have somebody on my Facebook account, and they've been telling me to invest in Bitcoin and showing me all of the numbers for stocks. And I've been telling them to kiss rocks, just get out of here. I wouldn't invest in this. It's too volatile. And now look at this. Mr. Gill proved that the little man actually has a chance. So I'm going to have to look at this guy and look at other people and say, hey, maybe I was wrong. I might have been wrong, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not always right about everything, though I am right a lot of the time. Many first-time investors stuck at home in the pandemic said they found solace in chatting with others online about trading stocks or options, as well as hearing from those making profitable bets. The discourse isn't always positive. An off-Reddit chat room associated with Wall Street bets is filled with obscenity, racism, and anti-gay screeds. Many on the platform lash out against Wall Street power players, and some express the desire to see the financial pros reel from those losses. I'm not out for anybody, Mr. Gill said. Roaring Kitty was an educational channel where I was showcasing my investment philosophy. So this is one thing I want to mention. When they say that Wall Street Bets was a racist channel and that's why they shut it down, it's not. It's the offshoot. There's a channel that's associated with that channel, ran by other people doing other things, not involved with people like Mr. Gill. So you need to remember, you can't paint this with a broad brush. This is the Wall Street Journal. It's going to be a little lefty biased, but I wanted to put some other type of sources in here because both the left, like I said earlier, both the left and the right are against the elites in this instance. Not the left, as we would say, like the left in Washington, like the Pelosi's. I'm talking about the extreme left. The crazies on their side are aligned with the crazies on our side, apparently. It's kind of interesting. It really is kind of interesting to watch. I mean, we're in uncharted territory, and we're seeing these very interesting power dynamics and alliances. I mean, there's enough things to talk about for 1,000 videos a day. There really is. Let's talk about the bear bust, though, from this article. Many on Wall Street disagreed with Mr. Gill's bullish view on GameStop and have taken a big hit as a result. Hedge funds and other investment professionals piled into wagers that the shares would tumble. To bet against a stock, hedge funds do this, all right? This is explaining it. This is how it works. This is what the hedge funds were doing and how Mr. Gill was able to have an advantage, how thousands and millions were able to have an advantage. This is what they do to drive the prices down. To bet against a stock, hedge funds borrow shares and then sell them, hoping to buy them back later at a lower price and return them. That allows them to pocket the difference between the prices. And when a shorted stock stages such a dramatic rally, it turns painful, often forcing them to exit from the positions by purchasing shares at a loss. In turn, that can inspire sharp gains in a stock, like the sharp thousands of percentage gains rise in GameStop. This is known as a short squeeze, and I'm calling it GameStonk on purpose, all right? I know it's GameStop. Don't give me crap. The bearish positioning of hedge funds was part of what drew many small GameStop investors anticipating a short squeeze. Mr. Gill said in his investment strategy Mr. Gill said that his investing strategy didn't entirely depend on a short squeeze, but he knew others were potentially betting on it. So far, the professionals have been wrong, giving a win to Mr. Gill and other individual investors who bet big on GameStop. Hedge funds like Melvin Capital and Maple Lane Capital were the ones burned, as well as jeered by boastful Reddit investors. And it's funny, you can go search. There are tons of videos of people from hedge funds and other investment companies and things losing their minds on the internet, absolutely losing their minds because we found a way to beat them at their own game. Many others have piled into GameStop trying to ride the rally to the moon. As many Reddit investors say, individual investors have also piled into shares of companies like AMC Entertainment Holdings in the hope of catching similar momentum and making a quick buck. GameStonk has garnered hundreds of thousands of posts over the past month across Reddit, Twitter, and Facebook, and according to data this week from Meltwater, a global media intelligence company, as the stock has vaulted higher, its shares have traded in a frenzy, folks, making it one of the most popular bets in the U.S. market in recent days, according to Dow Jones market data. Look at this ninja. There he is. There's Ryu from Street Fighter. Frank, it's Frank, not John Dux. Frank Dux from Bloodsport. With his red bandana, seasoned traders are starting to take into account the behavior of influential investors like Mr. Gill and others. Mark Sebastian, founder of the Chicago-based Option Pit and options trader for around 20 years, has developed a screener analyzing reams of stock to spot those with heavy activity from individual investors. And then he buys or sells options based on which stocks are gaining momentum, trying to ride the wave higher or lower. Recently, this included AMC, the movie theaters that haven't showed a movie in months and months and months. Though he said he wasn't a fan. Quote, "We're trying to get on these names before they completely take off," Mr. Sebastian said, calling one recent trade free money. Mr. Gill said his life has changed overnight. He hasn't set his future plans yet, but he'd like to continue the Roaring Kitty YouTube channel, maybe even buy a house. "I thought this trade would be successful," he said, "but I never expected what happened over the past week." He has one dream in mind. "I always wanted to build an indoor track facility or a field house in Brockton," he said of his hometown, "and now it looks like I can actually do that." See, folks, that's the beauty of capitalism. First off, this is the American dream. This man on a gamble, on a wise and researched gamble, right, pushed for GameStop. A movement happened, became a millionaire, and now he's not going to go dominate the world, create a sex island, or do something terrible like go to Davos and talk to other rich billionaires about how to control the world through the fakeness of global warming. No. What's he going to do? He's going to build a facility in his hometown for track. So athletes have a place to go where previously they didn't. That's called contributing to society. That's how the American dream works, ladies and gentlemen. You work hard, you do something amazing, you achieve your dreams, you give back, and you pass it on to the next person. Folks, beautiful story, awesome stuff. Obviously, AOC doesn't care enough to work across the aisle. She says Ted Cruz can shove it. But at the end of the day, when I look at those on the left and we both look at each other and nod and then look towards this type of thing where we can collectively stick it to the man. Maybe some of us, maybe at least some of us out there have something in common that we can actually one day unite around after we solve all this voting mess and all of the corruption nonsense. Maybe, just maybe, we can all unite around sticking it to the man. Maybe, just maybe, we can break the walls down. Now, with that being said, there's more to talk about, folks. Like I said, I'm doing this new format. We're doing multiple topics at one time. And the next topic on the plate is something interesting I thought that you should know about. Apple's CEO is battling with Zuckerberg, ladies and gentlemen. He's battling with Zuckerberg and the social media platforms over your data. It's very important to talk about it because apparently they're trying to make it better for you at Apple. Now, we've had issues with Apple because of the Parler stuff. I'm hoping that'll get cleared out. One interesting thing to note, when you go to Parler, it's gone again. Parler.com/feed, where there's usually a bunch of messages. It's not there anymore. It's just this 404 not found again. So that is not a good sign, ladies and gentlemen. Or it might be a good sign. Maybe they're bringing it down to put it up on its new servers. I don't know. But I don't think that's a good thing, and I work in technology. Anyway, back to Apple. Apple is making it so they have to be transparent to you, the social media companies, about how they use and track your data, all right? Which is very important, all right? Because taking your data makes plenty of money for them, but puts you in precarious positioning. And folks, it's very important to protect your data. All right, this is the point now. If I was sponsored and I was Ben Shapiro, I'd say, and speaking of protect your data, ExpressVPN. But I'm not going to do that because I'm not actually sponsored by them. Folks, I want to start reading this article. I think you're really going to enjoy it. Like I said, I didn't want to go with just the breaking news headlines. I wanted to curate and pick out and cull the best quality for you so that you could get the best information and the most useful information that we have at hand at the moment. And so you should know about this. You really should. Apple CEO escalates battle with Facebook over online privacy. This is coming from the AP, put on the Epic Times. Apple CEO Tim Cook fired off a series of thinly veiled shots at Facebook and other social media companies Thursday, escalating an online privacy battle pitting the iPhone maker against digital services that depend on tracking people to help sell ads. Quote, too many are still asking the question, how much can we get away with? That's him referring to Zuckerberg and Dorsey. When we should be asking, what are the consequences? Cook said, speaking at a virtually held international conference on computers, privacy, and data protection. Cook said it's, quote, time to stop pretending that this approach doesn't come with a cost. The cost of polarization, lost trust, and of course, violence. Cook never specifically named Facebook or any other company, but his remarks left little doubt that his missives were aimed at the social media sites. Quote, a social dilemma cannot be allowed to become a social catastrophe, Cook added, referring to a Netflix documentary about technology and especially social media's corrosive effects on society. That film took square aim at Facebook and how its algorithms manipulate its nearly 3 billion users to get them to look at the ads that generate most of its revenue. There's a picture of Tim Cook grabbing his glasses, possibly to take them off, and take his shirt and tie off, and then punch Zuckerberg in the face 17 times. I don't know. Just being creative there. Cook's broadside came as Apple prepares to roll out a new privacy control in the early spring to prevent iPhone apps from secretly shadowing people. This is a good thing, all right? Regardless of how we feel about Apple, this is a good thing. That puts the feature on course to come out more than a 6-month delay. After this delay, aimed at placating Facebook and other digital services that depend on such data surveillance to help sell ads. So what this is going to mean is that you're going to have the chance to opt out of Facebook tracking you, and it's going to make them have a very difficult time selling advertisements after that. It's going to cut into the pocketbook of social media entities. Although Apple didn't provide a specific date, the general timetable disclosed Thursday means that the long-awaited safeguards known as app tracking transparency will be part of an iPhone software update likely to arrive in late March or some point in April. After delaying the planned September introduction of the safeguard amid a Facebook-led outcry, Apple had previously said it would come out as early as this year. Apple released the latest schedule update as part of Data Privacy Day. I didn't even know that. There's a Data Privacy Day? Do we get cake on that day? Like, what do you do on Data Privacy Day to celebrate it? Is that like when you go and print out a bunch of stuff from the internet and put it through the shredder? I don't know. How would you? Leave it in the comments section below or email me at JamesLane@AmericanReveille.com. Let me know how you celebrate Data Privacy Day. In your imaginary world, if you were to have a Data Privacy Day celebration, what would you do? I want to know this because I think it could be hilarious. If you send some really awesome ones, I'll read them on the air. All right. Sometime in the next video or two, I will read the best ones, the most creative ones, how you would celebrate Data Privacy Day. I will read that on the air. It'll be hilarious. Apple's been holding off to give Facebook and other app makers more time to adjust to a feature that will require iPhone users to give their explicit consent to being tracked. Analysts expect a significant number of users to deny that permission once it requires their assent, and I will be denying it. I will definitely be denying it. I'm sure thousands of you will as well. Currently, iPhone users are frequently trapped by apps they install unless they take the extra step of going into iPhone settings to prevent it. Technology does not need vast troves of personal data stitched together across dozens of websites and apps in order to succeed, Cook said. Advertising existed and thrived for decades without it, and I agree with him. All right? Zuckerberg doesn't. Dorsey doesn't. That garden gnome. These folks want your personal data, and believe you me, understand they track you well beyond their social media site from whatever website. You ever look at porn? Zuckerberg knows about it, all right? And when he offers you a special t-shirt or a pair of shoes or a new CD, I can't believe I said a new CD. It's 2021. Listen. When you get ads, all right, when you're thinking about something, when you were like, man, I want McDonald's, all right, and then you get an ad on your phone that says McDonald's 20 minutes later, don't think that Zuckerberg and those algorithms don't know that you went to a porn site once upon a time, all right, or did something crazy like that. These people track you across the internet, all right, and Apple's adding a feature that will allow you to say, F you, Zuckerberg, we're not going to let you track us. That's what they're pissing and moaning about, folks. As a supplement to Cook's remarks, Apple released an 11-page report to illustrate how much apps can learn about their users in daily life. Facebook stepped up its attacks on Apple's new privacy control last month in a series of full-page ads. This is like Game of Thrones crap again. When people say, oh, why didn't Donald Trump do more? Why couldn't he stay in office? Why didn't he deploy the military? Because at this level, at this billionaire level, these people have to conduct themselves within the weavings and wovings of this game that these people all play. Look at this. Zuckerberg didn't come out and say, Tim Cook, you suck, like one of us would do. One of us blue collar folks. We'd call somebody out. If somebody pisses you off, your buddy, your friend, your family member, some asshole on the street, you call them out. You say, hey, jack off, why'd you say that? This is bullshit, right? You'd say something like that. Remember, I warned you about cursing in the beginning of this episode. You would say that. These people don't do that. These people take full-page ads out for $1 million in the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal, and other national newspapers. You see where I'm coming from, folks? It's a different world, a different game, a different life that we don't know much about. That campaign suggested some free digital services will be hobbled if they can't compile personal information to customize ads. if we can't sell you a bunch of garbage and manipulate you into wasting your money on junk, how are we supposed to line our pockets with all your money while you submissively crack rocks with pickaxes for us? That's what Zuckerberg is saying. Plain and simple. On Wednesday, CEO Mark Zuckerberg questioned Apple. I was going to say Appleberg's. I totally was about to say Mark Zuckerberg questioned Appleberg's motive. We're going to have to do that. Make a sticker or a shirt. Hashtag Appleberg. Hashtag Appleberg. Apple's motives. All right, let's get into it. For the changes, saying the iPhone maker. I'm sorry. I'm thinking Appleberg, right? So now, and you know, I'm born to a Jewish family, so I'm not trying to be bad or xenophobic or anything. I'm just making a joke. But now I picture like the Apple icon from Apple, but with like a yarmulke, just because the last name's a Berg. It's kind of stereotypical. Maybe this will be a little offensive, not make too many people happy, but now my imagination is running wild on the Appleberg. Hey, if you have artist capabilities, if you're a really good digital artist or you draw, sketch what you think an Appleberg would look like, whatever it may be in your imagination. Sketch that and send it to me. JamesLane at AmericanReveille.com. JamesLane at AmericanReveille.com. And I'll take the best 1, 2, or 3 and put them up on the website, ladies and gentlemen. The Appleberg, folks. The Appleberg 8. It's the new telephone experience. All right, folks. Anyway, let's keep going. He questioned Apple's motive, saying the iPhone maker has every incentive to use its own mobile platform to interfere with rivals to its own messaging app. Apple may say that they're doing this to help people, but the moves clearly track their competitive interests. Zuckerberg said. Google, which also relies on personal data to power the internet's biggest ad network, Google.com, hasn't joined Facebook in its criticisms of Apple's forthcoming controls on tracking. Google profits from being the default search engine on the iPhone, a prized position for which it pays Apple an estimated $9 to $12 billion annually. Imagine that rent payment, ladies and gentlemen. Holy crap. $9 to $12 billion to be on the iPhone. And you know, I don't think Google would want to screw that relationship up. But Zuckerberg, he doesn't care anymore. Him and Dorsey are off the wall, man. They are literally doing ayahuasca in the Amazon together and talking to freaking spirit creatures. But Google warned in a Wednesday blog post that Apple's new controls will have a significant impact on the iPhone ad revenue of other apps in its digital network. Google said a handful of its own iPhone apps will be affected by the new requirement, but plans to make changes to them so that they won't be affected by Apple's new controls, though it didn't identify which apps. Quote, "We remain committed to preserving a vibrant and open app ecosystem where people can access a broad range of ad-supported content on Leisure Parler with confidence that their privacy and choices are respected on Leisure Parler," wrote Christophe. How do you say that word? Is that Christophe? It's Chrisist, like Christ, Ophe, Ophi. Is that Christophe? 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 Is it Christoph? Like from, isn't that from Frozen? Christoph? I don't know. Let me know. I want to know that too. Christoph. Anyway, I mean, I could do that for like 3 hours. Just stare at that name. Christophe. We're just going to say Christophe because it's fun. Christophe Cumbet or Cumbetti. This is a hell of a name. Christophe. Seriously, dude. You group product manager for Google Ads. I never ever want to say or see your name again. Like, look, but this was by Michael Leidke. That's not that hard. Leidke. There it is. Leidke. Michael Leidke. Like the latke, though less potatoes and applesauce. Ladies and gentlemen, this was another important one for you to know because it kind of gives you an a bird's eye view into how these companies play chess with each other. All right. Apple, who screwed us on Parler, in a way is helping us fighting these folks about privacy. It's kind of like making a choice for the lesser of two evils. What will benefit me the most? It might also benefit the other people we don't like, but it's better in general. Who knows? But as they play chess on their board in their giant game, it's definitely not Mousetrap. It's definitely not Connect 4. All right. It might be Monopoly. But remember, at the end of Monopoly, Everybody eventually just flips the board on its side, throws all the hotels, throws the little ironing board and the dog against the wall and screams, "Enough! I'm done! Fuck this game." And unfortunately, I think the people are about tired of playing Monopoly with big tech. Strange times, ladies and gentlemen, but this is important to know. It's important to know that Apple is pushing back against the robot Suckerberg, and we'll have to see how this one develops. We really will. But for now, it's very, very interesting to watch Apple fight with social media tech tyrants. Let me know what you think about this one. Let me know where you think this is going to go. JamesLane at AmericanReveille.com. I want to know what you think. Is Apple on our side? Is Apple trying to stay neutral? Or is Apple the dark emperor in disguise? I want to know about that. Folks, we're not done yet. We're not done at all because there's still more headlines to talk about. All right. We know about Apple. We know what's been going on there. We talked about Keith Gill. We talked about the GameStonks. But now I want to take us a little bit back to politics. All right. Because just like we always talk about, we talk about how the left eats itself, right? We talk about how the left destroys itself. It nukes itself. It lights itself on fire. And the left's darling children, darling babies, darling celebrities of yesteryear become today's devils, demons, and derogatory statements. And folks, Governor Andrew Cuomo is no different. This is Business Insider, all right? There are articles after articles after articles on leftist run stations right now, news stations, websites, just destroying and tearing up as best they can in their code languages Andrew Cuomo, the governor of New York, the one who all of a sudden, after Trump now has left, is wanting to reopen the doors of his destroyed city. Sir, you're going to have to send in Snake Plissken to help escape from New York when we're done, because this is ridiculous. All right. You've destroyed your city. There's nothing left. There's nowhere for anyone to go. There's no way, even if they reopen the place, you've turned your country into a third world, not even country, your state, all right, sorry, into a third world shithole. A third world shithole. I'll say it. I've been to a lot of them. Is what it is. All right? Good people there. Not talking about the people in the third world. All right? I'm talking about the governments, the systems, the money, the way it's run, the corruption. All right? The control. That's what makes a third world shithole, not the people. So don't let the left tell you you're a racist, or tell you you're an idiot, or tell you you don't know what you're talking about because they want to play word games, folks. When you say third world shithole, you're not talking about the good people of some of these countries. You're talking about the politicians, the policies, the government, the corruption, the cesspool, the disgusting sin that makes a third world shithole a third world shithole. And like California, Andrew Cuomo, congratulations, you and de Blasio have turned New York into a third world shithole. Now, that's not what we're here to talk about. We're talking about the celebrity that is Andrew Cuomo, the Emmy winner that is Andrew Cuomo, the one, the only Green Goblin. He does look like the Green Goblin. Just saying. He's a bad dude. This guy is a self-righteous, pretentious. His own shit doesn't stink. So delicious. Wealthy. Jerking around with his brother Chris. Folks, is a bad dude. And now it turns out that he killed 50% more of the elderly in New York by throwing them back into the retirement homes while they had COVID. And who let people know? Well, of course, the same people that were touting and praising him just months earlier. Folks, I think their conscience has hit them in the gut. I think the left is done with Andrew Cuomo, and I don't know how he's going to recover from this. Why don't we start reading? This is Business Insider. This article is called Cuomo Lied, and now we know about it. All right. This is from Anthony Fisher. All right. Anthony Fisher wrote this article. And like I said, it's on MSN.com, Business Insider. Cuomo lied. And now we know about it. All New York Governor Cuomo had to do was admit he made a well-intentioned mistake when he ordered nursing homes to accept COVID positive patients. You know that the Cuomos are not capable of admitting a mistake. You're talking, look at Chris going out while he had COVID, or not following the rules while telling everybody else to follow the COVID rules. These are hypocrites. These are just old school Guido jerk-offs, plain and simple. Plain and simple. These are the type of people, all right? I'm from South Florida, all right? And every time I dated an Italian girl, and this isn't against Italians, all right? There's plenty of great people out there regardless of their race. But if you're from South Florida, you'll know about this. There's always one or two families where you'll date the girl, you'll date the guy, and they'll be like, hey, my uncle's in the mafia. My uncle's in the mafia, man. You don't want to screw with us, bro. That's definitely not what the girls I dated sounded like. I wasn't like, hey, sweetheart, how you doing? And she's like, yeah, bro, my uncle's in the mafia, bro. No, that's not. I'm just trying to talk about the dude thing. Anyway, the point I'm trying to get at is that Cuomo's the type of guy, both of them, him and his brother, where you feel like you'd go up to them and they would show off. They'd be like, yeah, man, this is my $17,000 rug over here, and this is my $14,000 painting of Mao Zedong, and this right here, this is my golden Emmy. It's so amazing. It's what, you know, they all hate on Trump. They all talk about how Trump is this horrible dude that talks himself up, but at least he does it in public. At least he's honest about who he is. These people are slippery snakes. All right. Governor Andrew Cuomo profited off of death. The ultimate sin, greed over murder. He murdered these people. Listen to this. Instead, he's giving conflicting explanations and said it's a phony Republican-made controversy. Now the state's attorney general has released a report confirming that Cuomo's order put nursing home patients at increased risk of harm, and the state undercounted the nursing home death toll by possibly over 50%. Ladies and gentlemen, 50%. At some point, all of this tap dancing, finger pointing, and brazen mischaracterization of indisputable facts needs to be called what it is. And what it is lying. Remember, folks, this is MSN.com. They're talking about their beauty queen here, their pageant boy, their top dog, Andrew Cuomo, the best governor in the universe, the best governor on Mars, Pluto, Jupiter, Planet X, and Nibiru, Governor Cuomo. Nowhere near as bad as DeSantis. Wink, wink. Just kidding. DeSantis is like the awesomest governor around right now. That mistake, all right, that Andrew Cuomo made in this pandemic, all right, the mistake of putting people in nursing homes with COVID, all right, that mistake may have very well contributed to the deaths of thousands of elderly New Yorkers, but there's no reason to believe when he ordered nursing homes to accept COVID positive patients in March, that was anything other than a well-intentioned and based on his best judgment. This is what I'm talking about. When they say that it's nothing other than well-intentioned and based on his best judgment. This is MSN. This is a left-leaning site. Completely left. I don't even know why I'm saying leaning. It's a left site. There's tons of these left sites, and they're all crapping on Cuomo. Now, they're tap dancing around the words, not necessarily tap dancing around the facts, but they're making it sound less harsh than it actually is. Here's the whole thing. Look, they just accused him of lying and then said, it's a well-intentioned mistake. See, they're not planning on holding him accountable. They're just putting out the facts so they can say, hey, they said it, just in case he ends up coming down, getting taken down. These folks, these people surrounding him, don't go down, don't go to jail with him. You see where we're coming from? That mistake may have well contributed to the deaths of thousands of elderly folks. Mr. Cuomo, your mistake did contribute to the death of tens of thousands of elderly folks in the state of New York. I don't care if it was well-intentioned. I don't care if it was based on your best judgment. You wrote a freaking book and told everybody how awesome you were and made millions of dollars on the deaths of these elderly COVID patients. And their family members somehow still vote for Democrats. Amazing work brainwashing the population, sir. Amazing, amazing work. You should get another Emmy just for that. The governor's judgment proved poor in this case. Poor for killing thousands of people. That's what you get when you're Governor Cuomo, right? When you're Governor Cuomo, your judgment is called poor when you kill thousands of people. When you're Osama bin Laden and you bring down the towers in 9/11, they go on a 12-year manhunt for you, though the authenticity of that manhunt is now under question as well. We don't know what to believe anymore, do we, folks? Crazy. Poor judgment. Furthermore, under Cuomo's leadership, if you want to call it that, New York flattened its curve faster than any other state with an early deluge of COVID cases. I want to translate this to you. Okay, folks? Because they're not going to mention that anymore in the article. I'm going to read this again, and I'm going to tell you why. The governor's judgment proved poor in this case, but it was the start of a pandemic, and the scientific information was conflicting. Furthermore, under COVID's leadership, COVID Cuomo, that's what we should call him. Under Cuomo's leadership, New York flattened its curve faster than any other state with the early deluge of COVID cases. You know, let me translate for you what that means. That means they flattened the curve because everybody died. When 30,000 infected elderly people drop dead of COVID, the curve goes down because the data isn't there anymore. The people that had the COVID went from alive with COVID spike to dead, meaning less COVID. Flatten the curve. So by murdering old people, Andrew Cuomo flattened the curve of New York. Great job. What's that tell all the other governors? So, ladies and gentlemen, what they're saying is if the governors of your state just murder you, all right, you have COVID and they just shoot you in the chest, hey, we can flatten the curve that way too. But obviously we'd have to go full in the way of AOC, though I wouldn't doubt that the left doesn't want that solution. Terrifying, absolutely terrifying, ladies and gentlemen. Cuomo's daily press conferences in the early days of the pandemic, similar to Rudy Giuliani. How dare you compare the press conferences of Andrew Cuomo to that of Rudy Giuliani in the days after 9/11? That's subliminally saying, all right, subliminally saying that this was Andrew Cuomo's 9/11 and he's just as good as Rudy Giuliani. Listen. All right. Thousands and thousands and thousands of lives could have been saved in these Democrat states if they would have just followed the data and not followed their hate for Donald Trump. That's the truth. That is the truth. The reason we're still talking about that order is simple. All right. The order of putting these old people in the nursing home. That's what he's talking about. The reason we're still talking about that order is simple. Andrew Cuomo can't admit he made a mistake. He should be prosecuted for his mistake, ladies and gentlemen, plain and simple. But a new report from Attorney General Letitia James, the same one that wants to prosecute Trump for nothing that he actually did, confirms what has long been suspected. Andrew Cuomo lied. All he had to do was admit he made a mistake, and he still won't. Quote, government guidance requiring the admission of COVID-19 patients into nursing homes may have put residents at increased risk of harm in some facilities and may have obscured the data available to assess that risk, the AG report says. See how that saves her own butt, by the way? Government guidance requiring the admission of COVID-19 patients into nursing homes. It didn't just increase their risk of death, but it obscured the data. So how could Letitia James, how could any of us have known the data was messed up because of Andrew Cuomo's order? They're selling him out to save their own butts. That's what you're watching. That's what's happening. That is human nature, ladies and gentlemen. And just as crucially, the report says nursing home resident deaths appear to be undercounted by 50%. 50% a big number, folks. While the undercount may seem like a technical glitch, in actuality, it was self-serving accounting. Patients who came from nursing homes and died in hospitals were not counted as part of the state's tally of COVID nursing deaths. Do you get that, folks? If they were transferred to the hospital, then they didn't die in a nursing home. Therefore, they weren't your elderly nursing home death. That is a intentional manipulation of the facts to benefit Andrew Cuomo. He should go to prison on that alone. Plain and simple. Both of these takeaways from the AG's report directly contradict the public data that had previously been provided by the Cuomo administration Department of Health, as well as the administration's self-investigation that cleared itself of any responsibility for the state's spike in nursing home deaths. When Democrats and mainstream media outlets asked for an independent investigation and transparency on the state's data, Cuomo repeatedly painted such calls as ugly politics and below-the-belt Republican partisan tactics. He didn't want anybody to look at the facts, folks, not even members of his own party. The selfish, lying, disgusting creature that he is. Andrew Cuomo's not even a human being at this point. Disgusting. Meanwhile, he wrote a book. This is even more so proves what I just said. Meanwhile, he wrote a book on leadership during the pandemic in which he barely touches on his nursing home order, but uses lawyerly doublespeak in the brief moments when he does acknowledge it. Cuomo's book, released in October 2020, concludes with the chapter titled The Aftermath. The governor has offered various conflicting explanations of the order. He said he had no choice to make the order because he had to follow CDC guidelines, but he's also cited his health department's report that put no blame on the order for nursing home deaths. And he even tried to memory hole the order itself, literally saying that it had never happened. That came out of his mouth, folks. These explanations cannot all be true. And they're not true because Andrew Cuomo's a liar, just like his brother Chris. Crazy, crazy, crazy. At some point, all of this tap dancing, finger pointing, and brazen mischaracterization of indisputable facts needs to be called what it is: lying. Asked about the AG's damning report in a Friday press conference, Cuomo doubled down on his accusations of political skullduggery, blaming the former Trump administration Health and Human Services official Michael Caputo for making his disastrous nursing home order a political football. Cuomo knows there were serious issues because of the order. The media, lawmakers in his own political party, and even the AG of his own state have said so. But despite all available evidence, he dismissively and willfully misleads the public by claiming this is nothing but a Republican fabricated controversy. You notice how this article, because it's on MSN, it gets more damning as you go through, but it's so long that by the time you get to the bottom, people probably wouldn't have read this far. So it kind of excuses MSN News and all these people from holding themselves accountable when it comes to saying what's true or not true. So they're saying what's true, right? But most people aren't going to see it. So they're kind of killing two birds with one stone there. Really screwed up stuff. Cuomo's been feted across the country. He was COVID's earliest media sex symbol. He even got an Emmy for his press conferences, but he can't even admit he ever made a single mistake. Folks, how do we celebrate these people? These people with such horrible qualities, these criminals, ladies and gentlemen. They're criminals. They're crooks. They're people that don't have honor. They don't have the skill set to do the right thing. It's called integrity. It's called integrity, ladies and gentlemen, doing the right thing in difficult situations, even when nobody is looking. And Andrew Cuomo, sir, you have no integrity, you dog. If he had admitted the mistake, he could have shown leadership. Instead, he lied, and now we know it. Andrew Cuomo's never shown leadership. Not one time. Him and his brother are left-wing lapdogs, benefactors of foreign money, and disgusting sellouts of the red, white, and blue. Plain and simple, ladies and gentlemen. Cuomo, if he recovers from this, is proof that the system is systematically flawed, but not systematically flawed with racism, not systematically flawed against minorities. No, ladies and gentlemen, if the system is systematically flawed in any way, it's flawed and skewed against the little guy. Left or right, black or white, it doesn't matter. If you are the worker bee in the United States of America, the system is systematically flawed to keep all of us down. Not on skin color, not on belief, but because we are not part of the elite ruling class. This, from the beginning I've said, there is no race war. There is only a class war. And it's the class of the rich elites pitting the little guy against each other so that they can get this country back to the way it was, lining their pockets while the bullet train heads towards the wall of socialism. Ladies and gentlemen, we can't allow that to happen, and the Andrew Cuomos of this world will pay a dear economic price for their treason. Plain and simple, folks. But still, 2021 has more jewels and gems to offer as this roller coaster ride gets even more upside down and spinny. Folks, now we're looking at the possibility that in early 2021, here we are right now, Fox News has something to do with finding Jimmy Hoffa. Are you kidding me? Now we're on Jimmy Hoffa. This was the joke at the end of like all 80s and 90s movies. Like they wouldn't find what they needed to find, but they'd find Jimmy Hoffa because, he was the union guy. If you don't know about Jimmy Hoffa, I guess we could do a video about him one day. But Jimmy Hoffa was the union guy, made a lot of these great changes, and then possibly the mafia being ordered by the government, possibly, we don't know, made him disappear. And now they think they may have found him. We were told Jimmy Hoffa was buried in a metal barrel. Now guess what Fox Nation has found? This riddle on Fox Nation uncovered new clues in a decades-long mystery. I want to read this to you guys. I want to end this podcast episode on a good note. We went through some interesting articles. You learned some stuff that some other people may not be covering. I'm sure others are covering the Cuomo one, but not many are covering the Apple one, and not many are covering the GameStonks one the way I covered it. I wanted to do it more of a reveal, more for a general audience, and not necessarily for the folks that speak that language. All right. I wanted to make the layman's version of a GameStonks mania. All right. The Apple thing you probably hadn't heard, so I'm glad you learned about that. We went through with Cuomo. I put my spin on it because he's a traitorous bastard. And now we're going to talk about, of all things, I thought we'd be talking about aliens by now. No, we're talking about Jimmy Hoffa, ladies and gentlemen, the Teamster, Jimmy Hoffa of fame, ladies and gentlemen, fame and fortune. Mr. Jimmy Hoffa could be encased in a metal barrel in New Jersey, of all places. I hope it's not in Hoboken, New Jersey. Jimmy Hoffa could be encased in a metal barrel tomb in New Jersey. Fox Nation has found what appears to be multiple large buried pieces of curved metal that could indicate steel drums arranged on top of each other that fit the description of where Hoffa was buried in a 55-gallon steel drum, with additional drums piled on the top of him in 1975. This is super interesting, folks. Check this out. Quote, he couldn't fit in the drum body first, feet first. Nah, they had to turn him around and put him in head first. Frank Capella told, I had to do it like that. Sorry. This is from Frank Capella. He told that to Fox Nation, describing how he says his father, Paul Capella Sr., pushed the remains of the iconic labor leader into a steel drum when his body was delivered to him at his mob-connected Jersey City dump days after Hoffa vanished outside of Detroit. Quote, he couldn't get the legs to bend right. Don't take this the wrong way because, he had a lot of respect for Hoffa. But he said they couldn't fit the fat little man in barrel feet first. So they put him in head first and they pushed the cover on top of him and they just buried him. Coppola said his father then dug a 12-foot deep hole with an excavator, dumped the drum, holding Hoffa's remains into the pit, then piled more than a dozen 55-pound steel drums on top of Hoffa before filling the hole in with dirt to cover up the evidence. He said he was 99.99.99% sure, and he would bet his life that Hoffa was there. Fox Nation also found an underground pit that was at some point filled with a different dirt at the same spot. The discovery of buried curved metal pieces and the filled-in pit where Coppola said Hoffa's remains can be found is revealed in Fox Nation's latest episode of A Riddle, the search for James R. Hoffa. Ooh, that's my name. The show is a 4-part series that delves into the disappearance of the formal International Brotherhood of Teamsters president with the goal of trying to finally solve the case. Hoffa was murdered after he disappeared on July 30th, 1975, while on his way to a suspected meeting with mafia bosses, including infamous New Jersey Genovese crime family capo and Teamsters union leader Anthony Tony Provenzano, who ruled the area where Coppola told us Hoffa is buried. Fox Nation hired ground-penetrating radar services. This is pretty cool. A nationwide company that uses radar technology. I hope this company, American Reveille, the one we're building, I hope we have enough money one of these days so we can do some cool stuff like this, because I have some awesome plans to bring you guys some killer documentaries once we secure funding. I really do. All right. They used this radar technology, all right, that reflects objects underground to search for any evidence of the buried barrels. The radar revealed numerous curved shapes like half-moon objects on top of each other that GPRS project manager and specialized radar technician Steve Sahulis told us are pieces of metal, along with a delineated underground pack of dirt, indicating that a pit had at one time been dug and then filled in. What Sahulis called metal round anomalies were described as being similar to the size of large drums. We're getting another round anomaly here, Sahulis said as he scanned the ground with the radar screen, revealing numerous round objects at the spot where Frank had pointed out as Hoffa's burial site. This is real interesting. I hope they find him. We're all getting them at a similar height as well. I'm getting similar anomalies. Sahulis said he scanned the area using a grid pattern. You can tell that there's something that was disturbed here. This was explained in one of the findings. It's almost like it was excavated. Something happened here, and there's definitely metal underground. The spot is a dusty and hard soil plot of land in Jersey City, directly under the looming Pulaski Skyway that connects the city to Newark across the Meadowlands. The parcel is owned by the New Jersey Department of Transportation and is now used by a local waste management company to store unused dumpsters. Quote, Frank's story's the best darn story that I've heard about this case in the 44 years since I first started investigating Hoffa's murder, said Dan Moldea, the most prominent Hoffa expert in the country. He wrote the landmark book, The Hoffa Wars, in 1978, has been investigating the Hoffa disappearance for decades and was interviewed by Fox Nation and then teamed up with our effort. Quote, I think what Eric and I are now proving is that from soup to nuts, this was a Jersey operation, he said. Frickin' Jersey. Jersey always does this. This is a Jersey operation, eh? It's Jersey. We got the better pizza in Jersey. I will say this. I love New York pizza, all right? But I've gone across the water and had pizza in Jersey right across the water. It's very close. Can't beat that East Coast pizza, though. Can't beat it whatsoever. Frank first approached Dan after he appeared. By the way, I'm talking about pizza here. So, if Dave Portnoy's ever watching this, I would love to be on One Bite. Everybody knows the rules. Just saying. If any of my fans are also fans of Dave Portnoy, please feel free to harass him about having me on there. Frank first approached Dan after he appeared in the first 2 episodes of Riddle. He told him where the site is. He later accompanied Dan there to see it for himself. Frank also executed a sworn affidavit backing up his information to submit to law enforcement. He takes me to the exact spot. He knew exactly where it was, Moldea reported. And here we can see a picture of it. Let me zoom in a little bit for those watching. This is Frank Capella showing Dan Moldea where he says his father buried Jimmy Hoffa. He describes how Hoffa was buried in the latest episode of Riddle, The Search for James R. Hoffa on Fox Nation. Look at this picture. See the freeway? It's like a freeway or a bridge on top, and under here is like a waste storage facility. It looks like some gangs in New York stuff where they would have something buried. It really does. I'd love it if they could excavate, but they can't. And we'll talk about that at the end of this article. The site's just a few feet off the property line of the dump, PJP landfill, that Frank's father owned along with the Genovese crime family mobster Phil, brother Moscato. Moscato's son, Philip Jr., told Fox Nation that his father admitted that Hoffa's body was brought to New Jersey from Detroit and was buried. The FBI had long theorized that Hoffa's killer buried him in a landfill, which at the time was an 87-acre wasteland of refuse, chemical, and thousands of barrels of toxic waste, known as Moscato's dump. A 1975 bureau search did not turn up any remains, but the numerous mobsters have been convinced through the years that Hoffa was dumped there, and FBI files reveal that various mafia members either said that Hoffa could be found there or suspected it. One mobster told agents that they brought him back here. Where do you think? Philip Brother Moscato's dump, another said. They put Hoffa's body in the 50-pound drum and trucked it from Detroit to New Jersey. Another said that if the feds dig at the dump, they'd hit pay dirt. And even some unnamed Teamster members were worried about the barrel. All right, this is adding up, folks. In the 1980s, the dump was declared a federal Superfund site, and the state and the U.S. Department of Environmental Protection cleared out and remediated the area. The EPA says it removed more than 10,000 barrels holding toxic waste, but the location where Frank says his father buried Hoffa turns out not to have been touched by the cleanup. Frank's father did not want Hoffa's remains to be found at his dump. So Frank said he buried him right next to his property, directly under the looming elevated skyway. All right? Which, at the time, was not part of the government remediation plan. My father decided to change the location because he felt he didn't know if somebody was watching, right? The place was under some surveillance, Frank told us. After I came in the day later, this hole that was dug, it was filled, right? Frank said that he decided to come forward because so many of the suspects involved are now dead. He promised his father, who died in 2008, that he wouldn't talk, even though he says his father's role in burying Hoffa always haunted him. He says his father's mob acquaintances gave him no choice and that he was very upset about it his whole life. All right, that he had to be put in this situation. Imagine that. Imagine, guys, being put in a situation where you had to choose your freedom and your family over doing what's right or doing what's wrong. It's kind of a situation that we're in right now with all this censorship. Do we conform to protect our families, or do we do what's right and stand up for free speech and open our mouths? But, if you don't do it, then they do it to you. That's what he was saying at the end here. I think I'm doing the right thing, Frank told us. My father said, I want this man to go home to his family. He needs to go back home. He was a great, good man, and my father did respect him. Frank, who was 63, when we met him in late 2019, had been in ill health for some time with heart and lung issues. He was worried that if he did not agree to be interviewed, his secret would die with him. If I pass away, nobody will know. I'm the last person alive who knows. Sadly, Frank did pass away 4 months after the interview. In February of last year, Frank Capalla's information may prove to be his legacy that could finally solve the search for James Riddle Hoffa. Now, here's the screwed up part, ladies and gentlemen. Here's the real screwed up part. Since it's against New Jersey state law for Fox Nation to dig up the site, they're awaiting law enforcement action to take the next step to determine if what they found could finally end the mystery of what happened to Jimmy Hoffa. Now, I don't know a lot about this, and I'd like to find Jimmy Hoffa. That would be really cool. Now, they're saying that New Jersey law enforcement has to act, right? They're saying they don't have the right to dig, and they're not telling you to do anything. There's no call to action. So I'm going to make a call to action here. If you live in New Jersey or you are from out of New Jersey and you want to see something happen with this, I'll try to dig it up. I haven't found it yet, but find out what state law enforcement agency, right, is in control of this. And let's start emailing them. Let's start sending them letters. Hey, dig up this site. It's 10 feet. Dig down 10 feet. Let's get these metal barrels out of there. And let's find Jimmy Hoffa and put that crap to rest. I would love to at least find Jimmy Hoffa this year. I mean, of all the bad crap that's been happening in this country, right? It would be cool to solve a mystery. It might help some folks with their mental health. Folks, it's very important that we keep striving towards the truth, even when it involves something from so long ago. Because, ladies and gentlemen, without the truth, we have nothing. Without the truth, we are lost. And in the end, folks, whether the liars look like they're achieving greatness now, whether the cheats, the haters, and the bad folks, the elites, the rich of this world that are taking advantage of us poor, and I'm not talking about all rich. There are plenty of good rich people out there. I'm talking about the dastardly ones, the elites, the ones that are dancing on our backs. Folks, we will not take this anymore. Folks, we will not be slaves to the system. Ladies and gentlemen, what you need to do is speak up, even if it's about Jimmy Hoffa. Those elites can't run our lives anymore. Donald Trump showed us what was behind the curtain, and none of us will ever lay down again. Ladies and gentlemen, never, ever, ever give up your First Amendment rights to free speech. Never, ever, ever close your mouths. This fight is far from over. With that being said, do me a favor, folks. Before we wrap this podcast up, I want you to head over to www.americanreveille.com and sign up for our Patriots Only Underground newsletter, Project Underground Railroad. You'll get mostly every day. It'll give you updates on what's going on with the company, what's going on in the world, the top news headlines, different things we're putting out. You'll get a weekly update as well with all of the content we put out for the week. This is how we are beginning to get around the social media attack and freeze. Other than that, we are starting national street teams, and we have people locked down in many states right now, which will be doing a foot to concrete, pound in the ground, old school style guerrilla marketing tactic of getting the word out about the American Reveille in their hometowns. If you would like to be a part of that, email me directly, JamesLane at AmericanReveille.com, REVEILLE. That's JamesLane at AmericanReveille.com. Do me another favor, whatever you're watching or listening to this on, 5-star review, write in that review if you're on Apple. Now, you can't do that obviously on YouTube, on Odyssey, on Rumble, and other ones, but subscribe, but follow, hit the notification bell, leave a comment, share. We're being shadow banned on most platforms. It's very hard to get the word out, so I'm depending on you. I'm really depending on you guys. While we're building these street teams in the next 4 to 5 weeks, we need you to just share the hell out of everything we put out. Please, please, please. That's going to be the only way we get through this. All right, folks, we're on Rumble, www.rumble.com. You can check out my channel, American_Reveille, right there. We have 1.1K subscribers on here and are looking forward to having you join us at the American Reveille on Rumble. Ladies and gentlemen, we're also on Odyssey. It's a newer platform, which is very similar to YouTube. I really, really like Odyssey. We're not being sponsored by them. I think there's a lot of potential. All right. We are American Reveille, REVEILLE on Odyssey. There are going to be links below in the description section. Please subscribe to us there. It's very important. Please follow us on Odyssey and please share. We've got some social media coming out on Gab, www.gab.com. Come to the American_Reveille at American_Reveille on Gab. Follow me there. Same on Clout Hub at the James Lane, just like Parler. on Clout Hub at the James Lane. Follow me there. Folks, we're trying to get back into the social media game, but obviously everybody's hurting around it. That's why we're coming up with the outside the box ideas for street teams and different things like that. This company is going to be growing into a large, extensive network of businesses, of people, coalitions of entertainers, podcasters, all kinds of different things. We have awesome plans for the future. I can't wait to hook you in, let you know what's happening, and see you there. It's going to be really fun. It really is. And folks, one more thing. If you really love what we're doing, if you appreciate what we're doing, and you want to thank us, you want to show your support, help us get through this period of extreme censorship while the right builds its own economies, please head to www.americanreveille.com. This website will change pretty soon, but for now it's right here. Head over there, go to support us, hit the support us tab. If you'd like to give Bitcoin, we would greatly appreciate it, especially since the price is surging. Also, you could hit this support us tab right here. All right, that's inside the support us tab at the top. It's a red button. It'll take you over to PayPal, and you could donate any amount, $1, $5, $100, $5,000. We have thousands of dollars in expenses coming in the next few months that I'm taking right out of my own pocket. I have to copyright, trademark. I got all kinds of things to do. We got to hire lawyers for the business plan to make sure that's right, lawyers for contracts, for all the dozens of people helping us right now. Make sure that this company doesn't disappear. All right, so that the lefties with all their big pocketbooks can't come kill us while we're growing into a major national organization. So if you can spare it, please do so. I want to thank you so much for watching and listening. Thank you so much to everybody out there, all my patriots, all the wonderful folks that make this possible. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We got a lot more exciting news coming soon, and I will see you on the next episode. Have a great day. Bye.